Why didn't God stop this? Have you ever said to yourself, my child passed away suddenly. Why did God not prevent a premature death? Or have you ever said, suddenly I've been here for 20 years at this workplace, 25 years. They walk in and I've lost my job. Why didn't God prevent it? Maybe other people could have been gone that haven't been here as long. They could have been asked to leave or fired or whatever term you want to use. But you got fired instead. Why did God not stop that? He knows you need the income, right? Or maybe in cases that I've had in my own personal family life, why did God take someone that we love so dear and everybody misses in a car accident in their early 60s? It doesn't make sense. There are some things I have to tell you that do not make sense. But here's one, and here's this couple. You see this fellow over here? You see this lady with him? This represents a husband and wife who are horribly arguing with each other. And I'm going to say something that just came to me, and I think it was the Andy Griffin show. Yeah, I'm dating myself here. Most people my age like to watch reruns of Andy Griffin because Barney Fife, as we call him, was hilarious to begin with. He was just absolutely hilarious. But in the program, if I remember right, this man and his wife were just fussing all the time, so they tried to get him to stop fussing. But yet they were happily married, arguing all the time. They weren't even happy when they weren't fussing. So some people fuss so much with each other, or argue so much is a better word. Fussing is like an old mountain term, that they get used to it and they still keep their marriage together and somehow manage to do it. But others, this becomes an issue. Anger, becoming angry with one another, arguing with one another, the contentions and the discord, and eventually one or both of them will say this: why did God allow me to marry him? Why did God allow me to marry her? And what happens is sometimes we have what 2 Corinthians 6:14 said is an unequal yoke. Do not be unequally yoked with an unbeliever. Don't be unequally yoked with someone, and let's say you're following the Lord and you met someone really nice, but they will not go to church. They will not really accept the Lord, nor will they follow him. That's an unequal yoke. Now, let me just say this. They might be a nice person, but when it comes to the spiritual side, which is the most important side of a family, they're not going to be in a supportive role. And you're going to have conflicts over maybe taking the kids to church, going to church, trying to get, if it's a blended family, trying to get like if it's a guy, the daughters or the sons to go to church with you because they don't want to go to church. You end up with stress and strife with an unequal yoke because there's always a pull in two opposite directions. So, sometimes people marry because their feelings, their emotional feelings outweigh maybe the common sense, or they don't particularly weigh out the long-term consequences because of the present feelings that they're having. And, let me say this. Somebody did ask me one time, I do not know why God let me marry this person. Well, your mother told you he wasn't right. Your sisters told you he's crazy. Your best friend said you're making a mistake, and you did it anyway. Did it dawn on you that in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, every word is established? And maybe when 3 people that you love and trust, your mother, your siblings, or your sisters, could have been your brother, and your best friends are saying, something's not right, and you go ahead and you do it anyway. And a lot of people do this for companionship. Like, if they lose a companion through death, not necessarily a divorce, but through death, they marry because of companionship because they're very, very lonely. And a lot of times with the death of a loved one and a woman becomes a widower or a widow and they marry for companionship and the other person understands that, they have a good relationship throughout their life. I know many old elderly people that has happened to. But the problem is that do not fellowship, it says this, have no fellowship with the unfruitful workers of darkness. Do not be unequally yoked together. And it even tells you, Paul even said that if a woman were to remarry, she has to marry in the faith and not marry an unbeliever. Now, these are not just suggestions in the Bible. Well, we suggest that this is a good rule to follow. These are things by revelation, and let me say this, by permission of the Lord, that Paul spoke about in his writings. Okay. Now, let me say this. If you drink alcohol, you know that you can eventually get liver disease. If you smoke consistently, you know it's possible to get lung cancer. If you are, let me just use a modern term, sexually active, you know you could catch a sexually transmitted disease. If you have unprotected sex, and I'm not encouraging that, by the way, I'm just making a point. But if you have unprotected sex and you get pregnant, then you get, I know of people this has happened to. I know people that churches we've preached that this has happened to, and they become very angry at God because why did God allow me to get pregnant? Well, God didn't allow you to get pregnant. You got pregnant because you did something that could cause you to get pregnant. So it wasn't the devil. The devil may have tempted you with someone. If you're unmarried or even in adultery, whatever the case may be, you may have been tempted to do something. But the bottom line is you acted in something that you had the knowledge of what could happen. You drank and had knowledge you could have a liver disease. You smoked and had knowledge you could have cancer. You had, a sexually transmitted disease, and you knew it could happen. So here's the thing. Listen to this statement now, and I'm saying this really in love. God will never stop what you permit because you have a will of your own. Your will is that force that is in you that desires you to say or do certain things. Like people are motivated to exercise, so they have willpower to get up in the morning to exercise. Some people have a great prayer life, so they have the will or desire to go into morning prayer, afternoon prayer, or that type of thing. So your desires help motivate your will. So if you have a desire to be with someone, it might not be a smart decision mentally, but your willpower has overrode your common sense. And in many times when you're asking, why did God let this happen? Your willpower overrode your common sense. Your emotional feelings overrode what the Word teaches. So you didn't pay attention to the Word. You basically paid attention to what your emotions or what your feelings said. So it's not always a pastor or a prophet or a pastor or an evangelist, that gives you a word. Sometimes God will use strange voices to speak to you. I mean, Balaam had a dumb donkey talking to him. Peter had a rooster that crowed that brought him under conviction, right? So sometimes your warning or your voice, the voice can come in different directions. But I always tell people this, you better follow your peace. If you do not have absolute perfect peace about something, then don't jump into it. Just take your time, flow with it, and that type of thing. And build, you have to, before you build a marriage, you have to build a relationship with the person. Before the relationship, there has to be a friendship. So you go from friendship to a true relationship, which is founded on love, to the marriage. And some people want to just jump into the marriage, for different reasons. So you have to be careful because I want to say something to you. The red lights can be there to say, you better be careful, you better be careful. I remember my wife when I was working, people sometimes question, I don't think Perry Stone ever had that number of hours in study. Well, here's what you don't know. I don't work 8 hours a day. I do now, but in the earlier days, from the time I was a kid preacher, all through my early marriage and everything, I would, on vacation, study to write books on vacation. I would work, when I wrote the study Bible commentary, I was working 16 hours a day and only going home just to sleep and come back early in the morning, 16 hours a day. And it took me 7 years to do that. And not counting all the weekends of when I would go preach on the weekends, I literally studied and prayed the whole time. So yes, we have that amount of time. I calculated it one day. It took me hours to calculate the time. So my point is, my wife would say, you're operating off of adrenaline and it's going to catch up with you. And honestly, it caught up with me. Now, I don't try to work harder. I don't try to work longer. I try to work wiser. And I've learned to take breaks. So the Bible talks about all things work together for the good of them that love God and are called according to His purpose. If we quote that verse by itself, then it implies that if we follow the Lord, everything's going to work out good. And you and I know that some of us have followed the Lord and things didn't work out good because we interjected too much of the flesh in our situations. We interjected our mouth too much into the situations, so it didn't turn out good. But if you read that verse in context, it says that we make intercession. The Spirit makes intercession with us with groanings which cannot be uttered. And when we make intercession, we make it according to the will of God. And then when you've made intercession and you're in God's will, all things work together for the good of them that love God and called according to His purpose. So let me just say this. If you're questioning and you say, why didn't God stop this? I've just given you a number of answers. Your will overrode it. Your emotions overrode it. Your personal feelings overrode it. Your anger with God, you rebelled and something happened during that time. There's a lot of reasons why. But what we need to do is pray every day, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And God, we pray in the Spirit that your will be done in our life. And then He will give you either a sense of something's not right, or He'll give you a total, complete sense of peace. And I always say to people, follow the inner peace. Even when things look crazy and say, this doesn't make sense to do this, but you have total. When I built this building, Omega Center International, 72,000 square foot building, I had $4 million in the bank and needed another 18 million and didn't have it. But I had total peace. I knew we were supposed to do it, and we built in a recession. No bank would give us a loan, a building loan. I mean, I'm like, Perry Stone, have you lost your mind? But I had total peace through the entire process, and it was paid for before we dedicated it. Now think about that. And God did it. To God be the glory. It wasn't anything I did, it was God that did it. And the Lord knew when He gave me the peace, He would take care of it, because I have a saying that says, God's will, God's bill. When you know you're in His will, it doesn't mean it's easy. It doesn't mean there's lean times and famine times, but He eventually comes through, sometimes at the last minute, but He comes through. Now, I want you to get this book and also the audio series that comes with it. Do your personal and family battles seem to come in seasons and cycles? Inheriting your ancestors' weaknesses, familiar spiritual generational patterns, exposing the sequence of satanic attacks against you and your family. The most important book I've written in years and years and years is in my hand. And I want you to read it, and you're going to learn a lot. So watch this carefully. That's coming up. Stay tuned.
In the Dark Kingdom, there are crafty, familiar spirits linking back to your ancestors that continue to design seasonal attacks, targeting your family on specific timed moments. However, armed with this stunning insight, you can track their timing to cut off their intended plots. In Perry Stone's gripping new book, Return of the Dark Angel, he uncovers how your family may be encountering supernatural warfare involving an unclean or familiar spirit, character weaknesses, dangerous bondages, secret sin cycles, and death cycles that you can now unmask and expel from your present and future lineage. Perry will explain how he was informed that a dark angel was assigned against him every 12 years. Through months of investigation, Perry discovered these 12-year attack cycles, including a strange pattern in his Italian family. For over 120 years, family deaths occurred in a strange 12-year pattern. Through family documentation, Perry discovered the trail of an ancient spirit linked with his early ancestors' involvement in the Italian Black Hands Mafia, including making and selling moonshine during Prohibition in Central West Virginia, which caused early deaths. In Perry's book, he reveals topics such as my besetting sin and personal troubles, the 12-year cycles of the Dark Angel explained, the strange 12-year death angel visitation, a family sin that cost the lives of 2 children, breaking a generational pornography spirit, why the enemy targets your firstborn child more than others, the need to take a ride in the hills to avoid a hearse, how and why Satan commissions hindering spirits to obstruct God's will in your life, how to chart out your personal and family attacks to prevent them, how your weakness can become your strength, healing deep soul wounds. Discover the undetected and most effective weapons Satan is using right now. Preparing for a sudden counterattack. Using 3 weapons most Christians never use in a serious conflict. 7 life lessons you must learn now to win in the end. Armed with this amazing knowledge, you can track and detect upcoming plots and cut them off, shutting the door in advance on their strategy. When ordering this book, Perry will also include a 2-audio CD teaching Christian Cannibals in the Church, Biting and Devouring One Another in God's Name. This is an explosive expose exposing a dangerous social media feeding frenzy. Every believer must hear this timely, detailed teaching. This audio teaching is available for immediate download when you order from our website. Order offer DA149, which includes Perry's new book, Return of the Dark Angel, and new 2 audio CD teaching, Christian Cannibals in the Church, by calling toll-free 1-888-21-BREAD. That's 1-888-212-7323, or order online at perrystone.org. You can also write to us at Perry Stone, P.O. Box 3595, Cleveland, Tennessee 37320, and enclose your gift of $30 or more to request package offer DA149. We look forward to hearing from you soon.
Searching for a message that inspires and uplifts, delivered precisely when you need it? Perry Stone offers immediate access to a vast collection of teachings grounded in God's Word. Visit perrystone.org/downloads to explore over 400 digital audio teachings in MP3 format, compatible with any device. Simply select your teaching, complete your purchase, and receive an instant download link, both on the checkout page and via email. Click Save As to store it securely, ensuring unrestricted access whenever you need it. For those who prefer video, perrystone.tv provides a dedicated video-on-demand platform featuring the latest conferences, teaching series, and Perry Stone's current manifest messages, all available instantly. This direct approach eliminates shipping fees and delays, especially beneficial for international audiences as it bypasses prolonged transit times. Plus, when making international purchases, your payment card automatically converts foreign currencies to your home currency using the exchange rate provided by the payment network, simplifying the transaction process. Whether audio or video, it's a timely, impactful word ready whenever you are.